Good evening, my name is Jared Smith. I'm a member of No Left Turn in Education Colorado. The following video requires a little setup for context. On Thursday, August 26th, No Left Turn in Education Colorado had 4 of our Denver members speak during public comment at the Denver Public Schools Board of Education meeting. The response from a couple other community members and the board in particular we believe is worth seeing. You're about to watch a video of 4 of our Denver members' public comments at the board that day, spliced with reactions from both 2 community members and the board. It's important to note that each of the community members attempting to deride our organization with trite accusations of racism and conspiracy theory each spoke after our members had spoken. That means they had every chance to hear every single word that our members said. We want you to see for yourself if any of our comments merit the accusations that followed. The 2 community members making these accusations have a couple of unique characteristics that I think are worth noting. The first community member is a would-be public official and former candidate for the District 4 board seat. We would have been absolutely opposed to his gaining a seat for reasons that I'll spell out in another video. But suffice to say, he would have been well aware that we firmly stand against his ideologically driven ambitions in the district. The second gentleman identifies himself as a personal friend of some of the board members.
Really happy to see all of the board members, many of you whom I consider friends, personal friends.
That will become relevant when you hear the board react to his references to our organization. Let's begin with our first member and speaker, Rachel. Again, Rachel's video and all the others you'll be seeing are spliced with the accusations that followed our members' comments. I think you'll find those accusations as unfounded as we do. At the end of our speakers' videos, there will also be both community members' public comments in their entirety. We want you to have every opportunity to determine if we are taking them out of context, because we're not disingenuous hacks.
Critical race theory has become a hot button issue. It seems to me that people are operating out of different definitions of racism and sexism, and there are different perspectives on how best to handle these issues. Unfortunately, certain members of this board and certain teachers often display an intolerance towards different perspectives.
The racist, transphobic, bigoted, and completely misinformed vitriol that has been spewed from the mouths of these organizations and their supporters.
There is now a teacher group stating that their goal is to drown out the voices of the parents like me. If educators are unwilling to listen to different views from parents, what is happening in their classrooms? If they are not encouraging viewpoint diversity on these issues, then they are not teaching critical thinking skills. Instead, they are indoctrinating.
For a second, I thought I had signed on to a QAnon rally, but it's good to see that got cleared up and there are cooler heads are prevailing here.
These educators seem to have lost sight of their roles, which is primarily to support the parents in the education of our own children. Instead of calling us racist and dehumanizing us, I encourage these teachers and school board members to show wisdom, maturity, and to behave like true educators, willing to engage with different ideas.
Racist, transphobic, bigoted, and completely misinformed vitriol.
There have always been varying viewpoints on how to handle these issues of racism and sexism in this country. Even civil rights leaders in the Black Power movement differed, and many feminists have always had different perspectives.
For a second, I thought I had signed on to a QAnon rally.
Many members of No Left Turn in Education will be emailing school board members an open letter written by Black scholars and activists who disagree with the current anti-liberal victimhood narrative, and they have created a curriculum that tells honest history that also includes Black empowerment, resilience, and excellence. I hope the board members will be open-minded enough to give these scholars and activists serious consideration and to share their curriculum throughout the district.
Racist, transphobic, bigoted,
QAnon rally.
One of my biggest concerns with how CRT is being implemented is that it often violates teachers and students' First Amendment and civil rights because it is not being taught as a theory subject to analysis, scrutiny, and debate. Instead, it is being practiced as an ideology, attempting to coerce teachers and children into a certain belief system. Our government cannot compel citizens to profess political, religious, or ideological beliefs. And when schools are pushing teachers and students to label themselves, their activities, and their country in a pejorative way, such as racist, sexist, oppressive, oppressed, this can violate their freedom of conscience and is a form of compelled speech, which is a violation of our First Amendment.
Racist, transphobic, bigoted,
QAnon rally.
We have many laws that require our government to treat citizens equally and to prevent discrimination on the basis of race, sex, and religion. When teachers and students are required to participate in trainings, curriculums, or other activities that compel them to racially segregate or to label themselves negatively based on immutable characteristics or their religion, they are not being treated equally and their civil rights are likely being violated. If you are a teacher or a student in this type of situation, please contact us at No Left Turn in Education and we will help you find a lawyer.
Racist, transphobic, bigoted,
QAnon rally, but it's good to see that that got cleared up and there are cooler heads are prevailing here.
Michelle and Gabe and I met this year when we all became members of No Left Turn in Education as a result of our mutual concern of the extreme non-academic social activism we saw rapidly growing in our children's Denver schools. Last year, all three of us were DPS parents, and today only one of us is. Michelle and Gabe have joined thousands of other DPS families who decided not to return to DPS this year. And while I'm sorry to see these awesome families leave DPS, I'm also happy for them because I'm confident their children will be better off leaving DPS and what's been very low academic expectations behind them.
racist, transphobic, bigoted,
QAnon rally.
We need to be making more engineers out of our kids. My son is going into environmental engineering. He wants to save the climate, but it can't be done with gentle stewards. We need mathematicians, scientists, engineers. We have got to raise the bar.
Racist, transphobic, bigoted,
QAnon rally.
I do still have one son still at DSST, and I hope his experience this year includes an extreme focus on academics and achievement.
Racist, transphobic, bigoted,
QAnon rally.
But to the board and to the superintendent, I want to tell you that I also hope all of you will start talking and doing more this year about increasing academic performance for all DPS students in the coming years.
Racist, transphobic, bigoted,
QAnon rally, but it's good to see that that got cleared up and there are cooler heads are prevailing here.
Let me start by sharing a quote from Congress when creating the Department of Education in 1979. Parents have the primary responsibility for the education of their children, and states, localities, and private institutions have the primary responsibility for supporting that parental role.
Racist, transphobic, bigoted,
QAnon rally.
As a parent, I have taken up the responsibility of educating my 4 children from the first moment they breathed in the Colorado air. It was me teaching them what a loving touch was, how to use their words when they were in need, and me singing the alphabet and pointing out colors. And then came the first day of school, a time of excitement, tears, and fear. I was choosing to lean on strangers to teach and care for my children. And like baby steps, my children and I learned to trust the ones who chose a profession that would support families. This trust continued to grow with every year, just as my children grew. And I was thankful. Thankful because my son needed that 5th grade teacher to see his many talents, or that 9th grade math teacher who never stopped encouraging him. I was thankful for other adults who cared about my kids. It's a joy to watch my 2 grown children living out the benefits of their education. I was eager for my 2 younger children to reap the same benefit, eager to continue in this partnership. Being in a partnership with DPS meant I could finally return to school and earn the degree I held off for 20 years. Unfortunately, all those years of trusting strangers has ended. I no longer feel like a partner in my children's education or a voice to be valued. Now I feel betrayed. Betrayed by a system that has crossed over into my parental space, bulldozing through, telling me that they know what's best for my children.
racist, transphobic, bigoted,
QAnon rally.
To be clear, I didn't go looking for the wrongs of DPS. It found me. It found me when a school board member posts memes of my concerns being thrown in the trash. It found me when my son is being asked to pick out pronouns he knows nothing about and pressured to pick a political side during an election year. It found me when my daughter is exposed to the idea that she can be anything she wants, which is excellent if it weren't referring to her sex. And no matter the description or the title you want to give it, I know it's the wolf in sheep's clothing of CRT and postmodernism.
QAnon rally.
I understand that the world is changing. I understand there are generations of hurt lingering in the air, but it is not your job to teach my kids how to navigate through those things. It is your job to teach them core subjects, to give facts without bias or opinion, to allow for free thought and debate without teachers picking sides or judging the family life students come from.
Racist, transphobic, bigoted.
As we start a new school year, I am asking all of you to push aside your egos and your assumptions that parents who speak out are anything more than parents trying to restore a relationship with all of you. Public education was designed to support the parental role, not replace it.
Racist, transphobic, bigoted.
QAnon rally. But it's good to see that that got cleared up and there are cooler heads are prevailing here.
All right, good evening. My name is Gabriel Martinez. I live in Northwest Denver. I am the product of a failed public school system. You see, I was flunked out of 3 years of school, and I went on to a private school and graduated as class valedictorian. The game changer was the freedom to learn a new moral epistemology. Glory to God.
Racist, transphobic, bigoted.
QAnon rally.
So, I am a Colorado native of Hispanic and Native American descent. Most educators would assign me and my son the label of minority. For decades, minorities have fought hard to not be recognized as just another statistic. But yet, here we are. The school system is using race and gender statistics to sift through and discriminate against people through their children. I no longer send my son to DPS because he has no freedom of his own to his own social moral choices. I was told by his school before registration that this might not be the school for him. We now have elements of CRT, Black Lives Matter values classes, and sex fetish conditioning classes that are now mandatory with no personal freedom to opt out.
Racist, transphobic, bigoted.
QAnon rally.
I ran into a parent in my neighborhood whose daughter attended the same school, and he told me that when she came home from school one day, she was in tears, feeling bad and shameful about herself because she is white.
Racist, transphobic, bigoted.
QAnon rally.
Under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, individuals have the right to be free from discrimination on the basis of religion. Many organizations are required to accommodate religious observances and practices. So according to the EEOC, and you can fact check this on their site, Title VII, they say religious beliefs include theistic beliefs and as well as non-theistic moral or ethical beliefs as to what is right and wrong, which are sincerely held with the strength of traditional religious views. So that makes any type of social, modern age religion, CRT, whatever, as long as it has some type of moral teaching in there, it's a religion, as by the EEOC. So in Chanzira versus Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center in 2012, the court recognized that veganism, in some circumstances, may constitute a sincerely held religious belief. That court exempted an employee from having to take a flu shot. All right, so I have two concerns. So my first concern, as read in the Constitution, government shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. We need freedom of choice for our students. Secondly, the curriculum is hypocritical and celebrates hypocrisy. It says you have the right to your own truth, except this curriculum is a child-only choice.
Racist, transphobic, bigoted.
QAnon rally. But it's good to see that that got cleared up and there are cooler heads are prevailing here.
And I am a proud community member in Green Valley Ranch and the parent of 2 future DPS students. I am here tonight to speak about the recent comments made by parents and educators in Denver who have allied themselves with the group No Left Turn in Education and any of the other similar affiliated organizations. It saddens me to see outside influences who do not have the best interest of our children at heart taking over these important sessions where we as DPS stakeholders have the opportunity to partake in important dialogue. Let me be very clear. the racist, transphobic, bigoted, and completely misinformed vitriol that has been spewed from the mouths of these organizations and their supporters is just one of the countless examples as to why it is important that our teachers and education professionals are free to teach the events that have shaped the world into what it is today. I would like to share two brief stories for context. When I was just 5 years old, my kindergarten class took part in a party with another school in my area. Half of us dressed up as Native Americans, while the other half dressed up as pilgrims. We would meet in the cafeteria and share a special feast to commemorate the joining of Native Americans and pilgrims in the founding of what is now the United States. Strangely enough, however, there was never any talk of pilgrims providing smallpox-laden blankets to Native Americans or the mass genocide perpetrated against Native Americans in the name of colonization. I might have forgot that part, I'm not sure. Here's another story for you. Let's look at the treatment of beloved activist and community leader, Director Anderson. The unsubstantiated and since recanted allegations spread far and wide by white right-wing extremists have led to countless death threats and other threats of violence against both himself and his family and friends, not to mention the damage done to Director Anderson's image. This is not a new tactic, though. White voices have weaponized their privilege against the Black community for centuries, a fact that all people, our students included, must be aware of. Racism isn't just a relic of the past, people are living it today. When education professionals are chastised and threatened for teaching the truth, we risk the continued whitewashing of our students' education. Some previous commenters tonight have indicated they personally feel uncomfortable hearing about America's dark past and having it taught to their kids. To them I say, imagine how uncomfortable it must be for Black students, brown students, indigenous students, gay students, transgender students, any of the incredible students that comprise DPS who have been marginalized by our society but have had to experience this dark past. DPS should be and must be the beacon of progress in Colorado. We must stand up for our families and our communities, which means doing all that we can to ensure we don't repeat the mistakes of those who came before us. Thank you so much for your time today.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Marrero. I haven't got to meet you in person yet, but I'm very happy to video meet you. I'm also really happy to see all of the board members, many of you whom I consider friends, personal friends. As I'm here to speak to you this evening, I'm kind of reminded of Al Pacino in Godfather 3, whereas I had shifted my focus really into healing justice, and with the education slant, this is true. Every time I feel like I'm out, DPS does something to pull me back in. In this case, what we're talking, and by the way, I want to give a shout out to Ian, who spoke. For a second, I thought I had signed on to a QAnon rally, but it's good to see that got cleared up, and there are cooler heads are prevailing here. Want to give comment to what's taking place out in the far Northeast with Dr. Kim Grayson, and I cannot help but to be struck by PTSD here. Those of you who are on the board are very familiar with Danielle Ashe-Lewin and the issues that she went through at DDS. And if you look at what's taking place out at DMLK, it is an exact replica to what took place last year at DDS, the farce that took place at DDS. And so I'm going to ask my brothers and sisters on the board to please don't wait to the night of a vote to start beginning to pay attention to what's taking place out there and what is taking place with Kim Grayson. It is not by any coincidence that the same school that brought national notoriety because of a podcast that was headed by 4 brilliant young Black women, that the same school that is responsible for getting the curriculum of 360, the Black curriculum inside of 365, is also now the same school whose school leader is now being targeted. And so I'm not coming with a political agenda this evening. I'm really not. And as you can tell, I'm not coming scripted either. Because I think it's always best when I can speak from the heart. And like I said, most of you on the board, I consider dear friends. And for those of you who are listening, and just please know that what we're about to deal with in the far Northeast is we dealt with a double pandemic this year. And the pandemic being, of course, COVID, and then the second part of it is the systemic racism that exists inside of systems that treat unfairly Black, Brown, Indigenous, working class white people. And so I'm asking for the board to set their eyes on DMLK. And for those of you who are aware, set your arms around that school as they prepare on the fourth day for a school with a group of students and parents that have endured a dual pandemic.
Thank you.